If this to come through to YouTube. Got a few people in the waiting room. Should now be seeing this. Hello, everyone. We are live. Awesome. Welcome, everyone. Drop a comment if you can hear us okay. Let us know who you are, where you're calling in from. We will kick off in a couple of minutes. I need to come up with some conversation starters for these first 2 minutes. I should really plan this as much as we plan the session. You got anything for me here, Jason?
Other than we watched Beard Meets Food go to Farmer's Dog yesterday and thought about all the conversations that you and I have about how much I want to go there myself.
That sounds fun. Here we go. Come.
I will say
you can always talk about the weather. I mean, that's an easy one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That or the fact that this is the last one of the year, guys. I mean, this is wild that we've been able to pull this off, that you guys keep coming back, that we're supported by, amazing partners. Like we got First today to be able to keep this stuff free. And I think it's really awesome we're ending on a high note. This is a silly little idea that we came up with a couple months ago, and it's resonating and people are loving it, and we love making it for you guys.
Yeah, no, support has been awesome. A real lack of Christmas jumpers from us today, which is a loss, but hopefully we'll make up for it in the content. We're going to kick off in 1 to 2 minutes. Thank you all for joining. Just a quick one. We had a slight issue with some of the invites going out. I promise this is not a humble brag, but because we've had so many people join in the short space of time, we're being marked as spam a little bit because we've got so many emails coming out, having not sent too many before. So a very slight ask, if you have an email from us or an invite from us, if you can save it, or even better, hit a reply, give us some feedback, let us know what you'd like to see in the show next year. I'm going to make a promise that I'll reply to every single one of them. And that would be incredibly helpful for us to continue to grow the show next year. So thank you in advance for any support there. Let's kick off with a quick session intro while a few more people join before we get into the good stuff. So plan for today, I'm going to run through a very quick update on kind of the Google AI stack. So there's been some big updates for Google Workspace users. We'll run through those. Then I'll hand over to Jason, who's going to be demoing some of those features on a brand new use case. It's also applicable if you have access to other AI tools. And I think he's also going to show how you can do it for free without needing a paid license to certain tools as well, which is awesome. And then at about past, we'll hand over to our guest today, Mike Brown, ex-VP of Talent, now AI strategist, who's going to show one of the most exciting tools which is dropped in Google Workspace, which is the Workspace Flows, and how he's using it to automate a lot of the admin around recruiting. So I think that's going to be a really valuable session. Before we get into that, as Jason mentioned, we've got First, who have very kindly supported the show today. And we've got Luke here, who's going to show us a brand new piece of recruiting tech that I think a lot of you won't have seen before. So yeah, excited to learn from you, Luke. I'm going to hand over to you.
Cool, let me just share my screen. All right, well, yeah, thank you, Joe and Jason, for having me here, and I'm excited to be here and support PromptMates, and well done to everyone for being here. There's so much noise in the market around AI, and PromptMates is helping cut through that. I'm going to skip through my usual pitch deck spiel and cut straight to the juicy stuff. Just at the very top, if I were to summarize the power First gives hiring teams, it's AI speed mixed with first-class candidate experience. And really, how do we do that? Instead of introducing AI as additional steps in the process, we bring AI directly into the application form to bring humans together faster. And that's exactly what I want to show you today. How our application process gathers more information than just CVs, how we assess applications accurately and fairly, and then how we rank and manage candidates quickly. I'm showing you the best stuff today and the things we're most known for, But actually, we do a lot more around AI sourcing, matching from talent pools and your existing employee base, automating your ATS, and also we offer a whole load of ATS features for free. And just as our way of saying thank you, anyone who signs up online or books a demo, mentions make sure you mention PromptMates. We're going to offer free unlimited access for a single role to anyone who shouts out. Let me get into the interesting stuff. And I'm going to kick off today with the candidate experience. And really, this is about giving you more data to make better decisions and actually also leave the candidate with a better first impression. We integrate directly with websites. We offer a free job board that web and marketing teams love to use and integrate with. We connect directly into LinkedIn Recruiter and other job boards wherever you're advertising your roles to candidates. And for the candidate, it all starts with just one thing, uploading their CV. And this is the equivalent of our Easy Apply. That once we've uploaded that CV, they're in your system, you already know about the candidate. If you compare this to Workday or other systems where you have to register, confirm your email, all of these various steps are just hurdles getting away in the way of the candidate. And really, we're trying to skip straight past all of that. We very quickly just confirm contact details with the candidate, and we can also then verify things around right to work, whether salary expectations match, and hybrid working. And this is using usability best practice. We split out each question onto a different step. And honestly, just this one usability tweak makes such a difference. It's the most commonly referenced piece of feedback we get from candidates, just in terms of how easy it is to apply and breaking that out onto multiple steps. And really, it gives you the chance to explain your policies and get candidates to give you an accurate answer. And instead of just listing lots of questions all at once and overwhelming candidates. But the most interesting and exciting feature of our application process is this, AI questions. So this is built to improve both the candidate experience and hiring teams' ability to assess those candidates. We bring forward open-ended questions that you'd usually ask at a later stage, maybe a hiring manager interviews. We bring that right into the application form. And instead of asking candidates for a cover letter where they can go off piste and give you all kinds of information that you weren't asking for and not answer the things you want to know, you collect exactly the information that you want, and the AI helps candidates give a fuller and better answer. So in this example, we're asking for experience and evidence in previous sales roles, and so we can give an initial answer to the AI. And it's going to come back and ask for more details from candidates to make sure that we're getting the right information from candidates in response to that question. And so our customers are using these for testing technical knowledge in software engineering roles, role playing for customer support and more junior roles, even just checking alignment to your company values and desire to work with you. You can set up custom scoring rubrics to score these objectively and consistently, removing human bias from the equation. And you can effectively see this feature as your ability to clone the hiring manager and bring them right into the application form and cover details you wouldn't normally have until later stages. This is effectively the same as having screening calls with every candidate who applies, giving you so much more information to make decisions on. So I'll just complete the candidate experience. They get to confirm, review all of their application and submit that. And so just to summarize, this application process helps you get a better picture of candidates, because let's face it, the CV, it just doesn't cover everything. And really what you want to do is collect as much information to identify the best candidates to move forward. We achieve a 90% completion rate on average, and that's because we text and email. There's no losing links or remembering passwords or a life, and by that I mean, from personal experience, kids getting in the way. Candidates rate us 4.6 out of 5 or higher, and I'm being honest, I do literally get feedback every day from candidates saying how easy it is to apply. So selfishly, perhaps we're thinking, what does this give the recruiter and the hiring team? And really, this is giving us a better picture of the candidate experience, because we can assess every application accurately and fairly. And I think the first point to make on this is, how customizable it is. In here, you can see we've got employment requirements. These are the absolute must-haves, as well as minimum skills and experience. And it doesn't have to be job titles. Here we've got outcomes and duties. We're looking for a minimum of leadership and management of sales teams in this example. We then specify criteria required to shortlist, and this basically lets us automatically progress the absolutely outstanding candidates and move them forward automatically. The last section we've got here is everything else that we'd like to know that's preferred but not required. And you notice we don't just have experience here. We can identify whether they've worked for certain companies or progressed quickly in previous roles. Whatever that criteria is, we can build custom criteria to match the right candidates. And very quickly, you can breeze through candidates and see where they have or haven't met your criteria. I think the next thing to talk about really is the accuracy, and how do we make sure this is accurate and reporting right on each candidate? And because we break down each criteria into individual pieces, we're able to use AI, which is great at finding evidence in pieces of text. And we can quickly click open to see in each of the CV and application where or where not evidence has been found. And because we've captured additional details beyond the CV, we've made sure that candidates can give a full opportunity to give us the relevant information we need to assess. And this combination of being specific about what we're looking for and having more data to assess, it basically allows us to build a much more accurate picture of candidates. But it's not just that, it's fairer and less biased too. We're not giving AI an open brief. We're being objective and specific here. We're not allowing it to interpret priority based on the job description. We aren't allowing it to make judgments based on name, location, or when or where they studied. By structuring your search criteria and your requirements in this way, you're reducing bias from your process and ensuring every candidate has a fair chance and a fair assessment. Every candidate gets reviewed against the same set of criteria, unimpacted by tiredness, distractions, or moods that affect us mere mortals. And in terms of how this then helps us, manage applications, we've now got a fair and accurate picture of candidates. We want to get back to every candidate with a decision. And so with all of those assessments, we can combine and rank candidates. We've automatically progressed candidates into the shortlist. And with these, we can invite them to the next stage, give them access to your calendar, or invite them to do a test. Every other candidate will be sitting in the inbox. And the candidates who aren't meeting that base experience, they're marked as red, and every other candidate is ranked. We can work through in priority order each candidate before basically reaching diminishing returns. And at that point, we can select every candidate below a line and reject them out. And that means every candidate is getting a response. And the important thing to note here is that we're not just marking them as rejected. Behind the scenes, we're looking at the criteria that was met or not. We're able to give very accurate details on why the candidate's being rejected. So this enables you to tailor your messaging to candidates to make sure that you're enhancing their experience. But it also means that you get much more accurate data with zero effort. Just to wrap up, I know we've only got a limited time here. We integrate with all the usual suspects, so you can bring this upgrade to you and your candidates in minutes. It takes literally minutes to connect these platforms. Our customers are successfully using it for all kinds of roles: grad roles, sales roles, tech, all junior through senior. I hope I've given a clear picture of how AI is helping our customers level up their candidate experience, but also ultimately helping you be first in the race for talent. And don't forget to mention PromptMates when you sign up.
Awesome, Luke.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you for the demo. Super interesting. Like the bit I really enjoy is we think about AI screening and the potential to increase recruiter capacity, right? But maybe we don't always think about the candidate experience, and actually adding an AI screen before a recruiter screen is like extending the process, not reducing it. So the fact that it's at the point of application, to me, that makes a lot of sense and is a is a nice touch. Jason, Mike, any thoughts you want to add on the demo?
Yeah, one thing I will say is it's so clear that you guys talked with recruiters when you were making this. Like just that little feature of like select below and being able to disposition that. That's one of those things where it's like, I'm sure a recruiter gave you guys that tip because it's one of those things that like is so useful to us, but was the kind of feature that didn't traditionally make it into, you know, the software that was made for us instead of alongside us. So good stuff.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Totally agree. I'd also add on just the kind of the ethical nature of how you've gone about this, right? It feels good as a candidate knowing that you know what the recruiters are seeing is, you know, unbiased, right? And I think that, you know, there's so much noise around that in the market right now as a candidate that goes I think a long way.
Yeah, I think AI is being used across the board on both sides, and it's kind of weaponized. And actually, really, it should be trying to balance and help humans connect more than just putting barriers between humans. And that's, you know, that feedback from both candidates and hiring teams really is driving our product.
Awesome. Luke, we appreciate you coming on and showing us some new tech and supporting the show. I think Jamie's posted some links in the chat there, so yeah, awesome. Feel free to continue to ask some questions, and I think Jamie and Luke will be in the chat for the rest of the session. So thanks, Luke. We're going to move on, but we appreciate you, and we're going to dive back into the presentation. And I'm going to very quickly talk about like what's going on with kind of Google AI and the workspace at the moment. So just 5 minutes, which will be super relevant to like Google Workspace users specifically, and then we'll move on into some builds and some use cases, which will be kind of applicable no matter what tool stack you have. So maybe 3 to 6 months ago, if you were building like yourself a general AI stack for like productivity to go around your work in recruiting, HR, or any sector for that matter, you may have landed on something like this. So you have ChatGPT as an LLM for general inquiries, you have Notion as a knowledge base, N8N for automations, Canva for content creation, Perplexity for deep research, Lovable for building your own mini internal applications, Midjourney for image creation, and Cursor if you wanted to get a little bit more technical support and build some slightly more complicated applications. This would have been a nightmare for both your CFO and probably your head of security, because you would have needed 8 different licenses, all costing a price per seat, and there would be tons of different security and compliance kind of considerations around them, right? So realistically, you probably didn't have access to all these tools, and maybe you're doing some side projects and wishing that you could have access to it in your workspace with your colleagues. What's been going on at Google over the last kind of few months is for all these applications, they have their own version. So all of these do basically the same thing as the other tools we saw. So as a Google Workspace user, we aren't going to need to bring in loads of tools. We're going to have access to them inside our workspace, which is great from a security aspect and great from an accessibility aspect as well, because we can actually use them, right? Quick side note, like some of these are new features or new tools which they're just rolling out or testing, like Pomeli, for example, which is a content creation one. Looks absolutely amazing. It's only available in the US, so I'm sat here watching Mike and Jason do cool things with it that I can't do myself. So we're at the earlier stage for some of these tools, but just to back that up with some data, like we've seen a massive spike in Gemini use over the last kind of 3 months due to this increase in functionality. So you can see not only individuals, but teams and people are now building things for work on the Google Workspace, which is really cool. We're going to focus on these 3 tools across the demos today. I'm going to quickly talk about the updates in Gemini 3, which is their new model, which just dropped, and then Jason and Mike are going to build some stuff on these tools. So what's new? Gemini 3 dropped, I think, 2-3 weeks ago now. The main improvements are a big increase to the context window and a big increase in the reasoning ability. So what that means in practical terms is you can throw more stuff at it and it will be better at understanding it, finding needles in haystacks, and making decisions. So as an example before, you would need to maybe structure the data quite carefully so it can understand it. Now we can just throw raw transcripts and several of them, several different job descriptions with different contexts, different careers pages, interview frameworks, and a hiring plan. And it could comfortably conduct analysis like across your recruiting function with all those different contexts now. It wouldn't have been so great at that before. So basically we can throw more at it and it's going to be helpful in reasoning. And just to show what that kind of looks like, inside the tool, this is the chat here. You've got fast mode, which will be on by default. Would use that for quick responses where you're not really like making any decisions. You just want it to create some quick content for you. And then thinking mode, which takes a little bit longer, not quite as long as deep research, maybe like 30 to 60 seconds to get a response, but it will be thoughtful. And this is very good at looking at various different kinds of information and coming back with kind of measured responses for you. The final thing to mention, which they announced when they rolled it out, but I would say isn't working so well at the moment, is this ability to go app to app in your workflows. So an example of this when it's working would be you could ask it to source a candidate for you on LinkedIn and then go to another app like GitHub to validate maybe the tech stack that candidate had on their LinkedIn. This kind of works sometimes, but not reliably, and I wouldn't maybe recommend doing it too much yet, but something to be aware of and something very cool, which I think is just around the corner. But we're going to focus on the things we can do today, and Jason is going to show us like a new build on Gemini 3, and then with some of the other kind of AI tools we mentioned as well. So handing over to you, Jason.
That's awesome. Thank you. So this is actually kind of funny because Joe has been like emphatically carrying the Gemini flag for months now, and I've been like the de facto GPT fanboy. And about 3 weeks ago, like it did sort of start to shift for me, and in large part based on what he said. It's that like that slide he had with like the 8-10 different apps. That was me. Like I was the shadow AI guy whose credit card was like getting charged $29 a month way too many times. And then here I am now making use of this new Gemini suite inside the safe confined walls of, you know, my CISO and my head of AI and all that stuff are supportive of it. And so that's what we want to talk about today, is sort of like maybe how to move away and kind of come back into the Google fold. There's a comment right there. My recruiting workflows and GPTs have always been built in GPT. Are we now saying that Gemini is the go-to? I'm not saying Gemini is the go-to. I will say that right now there are some advantages to using Gemini, most of which that I want to talk about is the ability to share externally. With GPTs, you can make a custom GPT and you can share it within your company and you can share it external, but the only people that are able to access it are people that have a paid ChatGPT license. With these new gems that we're going to create today, you can actually share them out. And as long as somebody has a Google email, as long as they have a Google access, they don't have to have a Gemini Pro, they can access your gems. So what that got me thinking about was like, as a recruiter, what is something I wish I could share externally? So what we're going to do today is probably spend like 5 minutes building a gem that you can share with candidates to basically have them answer questions when they're in the interview process. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right. All right. So here we are. This is Gemini. You're going to go over here, open up the menu. Right here it says Gems. Go ahead and click that, and it'll take you to the Gems page. These are the gems that I've created. For those of you that have done a lot of stuff with like ChatGPT, you know what it looks like. It's just all the stuff that you've created. We're going to click New Gem. And this is probably going to look relatively familiar to those of you that have built custom GPTs up until this point. It starts with, we're going to name this app for all intents and purposes, give a quick blurb, tell it what we want it to do, and then add files to its knowledge base. The things that might be missing here compared to what you may be more accustomed to seeing in ChatGPT, ChatGPT does allow you the opportunity to connect it to things externally. That was kind of what Joe was talking about. Like it's coming from a Google perspective, but it's not quite there yet.
Jason, just hit zoom a little if you don't mind.
Oh, thank you. A constant reminder. I always forget to do that. How is that? Fantastic. Okay. So we are going today to talk about what it's like to get a job at Hogwarts. So this is going to be called, I don't know, let's do this. All right, description. This is going to be your magical assistant to your new job at Hogwarts. Now, for instructions, much like I said with ChatGPT, all we're going to do here is tell this gem what we want it to do. So I've already created a prompt here. I will share this. We'll put this out in the notes section or the detail section of the YouTube video. But in essence, what this is saying is it's telling it that you're a recruitment construct, the persona that you wanted it to be. For this particular version, we wanted it to be kind of silly and fun, how to handle the different topics that might come up in an interview process, and then the restrictions. Like you'll notice here, don't make up facts. If you don't know the answer to something, just say that you don't know the answer to something. So what we're doing here is we're like highly constricting it to only be able to give responses based on the knowledge base that we are actually providing it. This one's a little bit tongue in cheek. You can very easily copy this and put it into any LLM of choice and say, please rewrite this Hogwarts talent recruitment construct for my company. I work at Lego, or I work at Uni Pizza, or I work at Netflix, whatever it may be. So we're going to go in here to Gemini and we're going to paste the instructions. And now what we're going to do is go ahead and add our knowledge base. And the knowledge base is just that. It is the things that this gem will go reference when questions are asked of it. Now, you can upload directly from your computer or you can upload from a Google Drive. I personally tend to upload directly from my computer. What you'll see here, though, is I've got 10 different files. The most number of attachments that a gem can take right now is 10. But what you can do is if you wanted to put in like 20 different things as an example, you can go in and you can consolidate. Like, so for instance, you'll see here, I have like a holiday calendar as well as an employee handbook. I could very easily put the employee calendar into the employee handbook, and that lowers the number of, kind of maximum number of files that I have. Another thing to call out too is this is multimodal, like kind of like Joe was saying. Like you can throw a whole host of different types of information at it, and it'll be able to handle it. Like, so in this case, we're doing everything from, the Hogwarts benefits guide is a branded PDF, but the candidate journey is a visual. And then there's even some data that is boring old markdown files because it's easy for the computers to read it. So throw Excel sheets, throw PDFs, throw images. You can throw a lot of different types of information into a gem. We're going to go ahead and take all of these, add them. It's going to take a second to think about it. And now we have something that we could send out to candidates. We're experimenting this right now at my company, and we're actually putting a link to our questions about what it's like to work here in recruiter signatures. So, but you can go ahead and now let's go ahead and save it. We're going to start a chat just to test it out. You can test it out in that little box. Me personally, I found that if I'm going to test something, I like to save it so I understand what the person that I'm going to be sending it to will experience. And we can ask anything we want, like, do you have pet insurance for my dragon? I'd like to tend to leave it in thinking mode. I find that thinking mode tends to work better with deeper knowledge bases. All right, so here's information on what is covered. People can ask about, what are the pay dates? I'll even load another one up. What can I wear? How about this? Let's be funny. Can I wear jeans to my interview?
Maybe just one question while this loads, Jason. Someone asked if you can reference Confluence pages.
So what I've always found is you're better off putting in actual collateral as opposed to links. So like with a Confluence page, what I would do is probably save it as a PDF or try and save the individualized collateral and then load it as a knowledge base. My little saying though, AI is the worst it's ever going to be. I'm sure at some point we're going to get to the place to where you can give it, provide it a series of URLs and then it can go back and reference it.
Yeah, agree with that. I would not Confluence necessarily, but I think when you see Mike's demo, we'll be getting into like connecting other apps together. So you'll start to see that flow within Google.
You'd also have to remind the user to hit the plus button or the tools button and select Confluence or Notion or whatever, because you can't necessarily write that into the gem.
Yeah, that's a good point. So that's the gem. This is sort of what I would say is every single person on this call could build one of these today. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on how you do the next thing, but the next version is called Google AI Studio. And what this is this is going to look a little bit more technical, but you can literally start with this I started with this as my prompt. And I said, I want to go ahead and build the Hogwarts talent recruitment construct. Here is my prompt. Here are my 10 items. And it builds this out. Imagine being able to like go even a step further and send something that is completely branded. This is a little bit more difficult, not remotely impossible. Like I am by no means technical, but here you can ask the same questions, sort of like, what should I expect in the interview process? So once you learn how to do one thing, once you learn how to create a gem, you can very easily move that on into more advanced techniques. That's what I wanted everybody to see here. One thing I actually realized I just forgot to do though, by the way, when you go to Gemini and you go back to your gems, here's how you share things. See our favorite little share button? Our familiar Google share button, if you will. Down here, general access, what you're going to want to do is say anyone with a link can be a viewer, and then copy that link. And now anywhere I go, if I paste that gem, if I go and put it into my own personal as opposed to my PromptMates one, there you go. Now I can know how to get a job at Hogwarts.
Awesome. Very cool. Very cool, Jason. Maybe if there's a few questions in the chat, I'll try to answer them, but maybe have a quick look, see if there's any you can get back to there. In the meantime, I think we will hop on to Mike. Thanks for joining us, Mike. Do you want to give us a quick intro to who you are, what you do?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Mike Brown. I'm an AI talent strategist and spend my time actually between Door 3 Talent, which is my company, and then also partnering with Bond Global on AI talent as well. So today, Joe, you cool if I just jump right in? Rockin'. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. We are going to walk through a really cool tool that was really quietly launched recently. and to Joe's point, all of these things have really, come around in like the last few weeks, and things are moving so fast that this website and tool has already been rebranded. So it used to be Workspace Flows, and you can see here it's already Workspace Studio. So basically, what this is a tool that sits within Google Workspace that is essentially Google's AI automation tool. So some of the tooling that you saw on the page before, in the big AI stack, things like NAN or Relay, for instance, those are or Zapier. Those are going to be the tools that allow you to string different applications together, starting with some sort of trigger point. And you could, I think many of us that are avid LLM users have been dying for some of this functionality. And there's some of it that's built in to Gemini and to ChatGPT, for instance, mostly around time-based triggers. But the cool thing about Studio is that it allows you to string many of your applications together that live within the Google Workspace. So today, what I thought we would do is we do a quick walkthrough of what the tool is, and then I'll show you some of the builds, a couple of builds that I've made, and one little caveat that Workspace Studio is having a little bit of an issue with their Gemini integration. So many of the AI steps that are built into the tool right now are unfortunately not working. So we're going to just show you how you would build an automation, which is equally just as powerful. So when you jump into the site, you can actually access this. You'll see typically right at the top of the screen, if you're in your email, you'll see a little flow here. Let me share this tab for a second. So if you come into your email, you'll see this little Studio button here at the top, right next to the Gemini, if it's enabled for you. And I'm going to share back. Okay. So this is the home page. What you've got here is essentially a little agent builder. You can come in here and you can ask the agent to essentially, build any sort of AI agent. I want to build an agent that checks my Gmail for high net customers and notifies me in chat. Right? Great. Oh, and it's saying, I didn't understand you. Oh, this is because the AI is down. So we're going to skip by some of the AI stuff. So Google has gone ahead and strung together a number of different workflows that you could consider to be, impactful for you depending on what you do, or you could use these as like idea starters. And for me, that was exactly what I did. This was where I got kind of going with my various ideas, right? Looking at, some of the ideas around email, some around better meetings, some around tasks and action items. And then you can they also have some integration stuff that's really pretty cool too. So once you've kind of gone through this page and you're interested in actually developing, you can either click this new agent button here at the top, or you can click my agents once you've got going. Today we're going to do a new agent, and we are going to build essentially a tool that is going to take a look at our calendar, let us know if we have any upcoming interviews, and then give us essentially a workflow that's going to simplify that, kind of the process of walking into the interview. So first and foremost, you've got to add a title. So we're going to call this interview reminder and prep. And remember I had said, one of the things that we always were interested in Gemini are those starting points, those trigger points. And so the cool thing about Flow is it's got quite a few of them. And so you can do things obviously on a schedule like you could in Gemini, but you can also do things that are really cool, like when I get an email, or when I get a chat message, or when a form response comes in, for instance. Or, you could have it be scanning a G sheet for changes, right? So you can do all sorts of different things. What we're going to do today is we're going to do one called based on a meeting. So this is the trigger that's going to be constantly scanning our calendar. and we're going to tell it that we want it to look for every meeting. We don't want it to be specific to a meeting, but you could if you wanted to. And then this is going to say that the offset time is essentially the amount of time that we want it to notify us ahead of the meeting. So maybe it's 15 minutes in this case. Maybe we want 30 minutes, but we'll do 15. And then we're going to do before start. All right, so before the meeting or after the meeting. We want before the meeting. All right, so that's our trigger. Now we're going to add a step, right? So we're going to add the step that this would trigger. And once the AI features are back up and running, you could come in here and you could add a Gemini step. You could ask a gem. So we could pull in the Hogwarts gem, for instance, and we could ask questions about it and use some of the information that comes out from there. You could do other things which are really cool. They have decision steps, summarizers, data extraction tools. They even have like a recap of unread emails, which is actually a really great tool. But since those tools aren't working today, we're going to go ahead and just focus on the tools that do. And so one of the other things that's really cool is this check if step, which is essentially a decision step that Google has built in so that you can kind of build the if-then statements. So the way that this would work is that you need to base it off of something. And so it's always looking to the step ahead or steps ahead to be able to kind of pull in some of these various variables. And so in this case, we're going to go after the meeting title. So we're going to say check if the meeting title, and we're going to say contains. And in this case, we could add things like variables, like some of these that we pulled up, but you can also just write in words. So we're just going to say interview. So if this meeting title contains an interview, we want to do something, right? So in this case, we are going to, let's see, we'll create a doc, and we'll call this interview notes. And this is where we're going to start pulling in some of the variables, right? So in this case, we're going to do interview notes, and you can get to the variables by hitting the @ sign, or you can just come over here and hit the plus, and then come down in here, and you can see kind of like the various variables that you have access to. So we're going to use meeting title, so interview notes meeting title, and then I've got a little email that I will just grab over here and pull and drop in here. So this would be the content. And so we've got it. In this case, I just built a quick little interview feedback form that you would use. And there are a couple things that you want to do. So in this case, you would do, we would pull in some of the variables, right? This is some of the data that we don't have to necessarily go and get. Meeting start time. All right. And then this is essentially the scorecard of what it would look like. And then we are going to drop this into a interview scorecards folder that's shared. So it knows exactly where to create the doc and where the doc should be stored. All right. So now we've got the doc. Now a couple of things we want to do. We need to know about it, right? So I'm going to have it notify me in chat. And I'm going to add a little note to what I want it to notify me. And again, we're going to start playing with some of those variables again. So interview is starting soon. We're going to add meeting title, and then we are going to do, we'll add another variable. So we're going to do this one. We're going to add the link to the doc. So now when the little note comes in, I get the title and I get the link to the doc. All right, now we're going to add a step. So I want to make sure that I remember to actually upload the feedback. So now we're going to just create a quick task so that we can make sure that we do this. So submit feedback for, then you would add your variable again. Right, I think you're starting to see this meeting title, and then we go link to notes, link to doc, and then we want this to do day the run starts. Right, so that'll be when the task gets created, And then the last step, just so that we create a log of all of these things, is I want to essentially add a row to a spreadsheet that I created. So it essentially creates like a log of all of my interviews. So this is called MB interview log. And it knows to put it on sheet 1 of the tab. And we're going to have it add a row, which is after the last data row. And we are going to put in the right variables that we need. So this one needs to be meeting start time. And this one needs to be meeting title. And then, but you can kind of get the idea here, right? And so this is as simple as it is, right? And so then once we've got this, let's do we can test it, right? That's weird. Sometimes it's adding. You see, things are rolling out quick, and sometimes need to be a little, updated here from time to time. So what we're going to do here now is test things. So we're going to click the test run button, and you can come in here and you can select a meeting, right? And I've added a couple to my calendar. We're going to select this interview with Harry Potter, the AI wizard engineer, and we're going to let that run. And we're going to let this see what happens. And so it's now, we can see that it's made it through step 1, step 2. It's creating a doc. I just got a notification in chat. And then the last step here is you can see, we can just click over into this just to see what this might look like. But you can see that, I've pulled in and I didn't finish including all the variables there, but we can see that the data has now been entered onto the sheet. So that's essentially, this particular use case. And this is a flow that you could run, essentially for hiring managers as well. You could add an additional step to, create an email that sits in your draft that you then would, go and email to the hiring manager. One of the other things I wanted to do just briefly here is kind of give you a couple ideas of other things that you can build. And obviously once the Gemini features are all kind of back up and running, you'll be able to kind of really get into things. One that I think is really interesting is this Gmail responder. This is the one that I wanted to show you all that I've been using for the last couple of weeks. And I've basically automated the majority of my inbox so that anytime an email comes in, it categorizes it and then has a follow action on whether it should respond to it, archive it in a folder. And so just to kind of give you an idea, this is what that type of flow would look like, right? So when an email comes in, you would want to ask Gemini to essentially run a prompt. And the way that this works is that you would just write your prompts in just like you normally would. They're a little bit more direct, I've found, because they're really just looking for the data. And then you can kind of get into some of these interesting steps that make this tool super powerful, like the decision step, right? So once it's developed the data here and decided what category to come back with, I have all of these if then statements. So if it is what the sales category, or if we come down here, or it's the spam category, or it's the this one seems to be broken, or this one is the important emails category, right? We've got all these different flows that happen that essentially kind of string your stuff together and just automatically work in real time. To build off of this one, that I thought was actually kind of cool. So in the Gmail responder, oh yes, and the daily elf on the shelf reminder is important too. But the Gmail responder, one of the things that it does is it sends all of my newsletters, and I would assume many of you are following newsletters. I have like a ton of them that come in every morning. It sends all of my newsletters into a folder. It tags the folder, and then I set another gem, or excuse me, another flow that goes into my folder and does an analysis and sends me LinkedIn ideas to post about AI. So you can do all sorts of things here. I think that the thing we wanted to just really demonstrate is the power of the tool and how you string things together, how you're able to really start to automate things that in other cases took many, many tools before, and now you can all do it under the hood of Google.
Awesome demo, Mike. Thank you for demoing, and thank you for demoing on a day where they're making updates to the tool. So there's some changes that you have to work around. So not the easiest. I personally love this tool because you can build anything from like a super simple agent. One I have literally joins every call that I'm in. And if there's actions assigned to me, it emails me in bullet points. If there's just 2 actions, it will send me 2 bullet points in an email after the call, what my actions are, like what I need to do. Like very, very simple, but very useful to way more complicated flows like the one you showed. The really cool thing about this tool is you can plug in gems as well as Gemini, which is kind of a new thing. So to tie the session together, you could use Jason's gem, and every time you get an email from a candidate, it goes to Jason's gem to get the answer, and then comes back with that answer in an email to a candidate as an example. So I think it's a really, really, really cool tool. There's a few questions. Jason, anything you want to add on the demo before I dive into the chat questions?
No, I would just say that like it's one of those things where like you find individual use cases. Like I've been trying way harder to get better at walking my dog in the morning before my kids wake up. And I created one that when, like I'm trying to do it at like, early. So at 5:30 in the morning, I get a Google chat with what my day looks like, which is just like your standard executive briefing. So it's like who I'm talking to, if there's any action items. I have it read back in the last 48 hours of my emails to see if there's anything important that I missed. And then it also gives me a little tickler to make sure that I put any feedback in the greenhouse for interviews that I might have done the day before. So just like what I used to have handed to me when I was, working in an office, now I have texted to me basically when I'm walking my dog.
That's awesome.
Very cool. So one question for you, Mike. How did you build the prompt? And I think that probably means specifically like on the Gemini steps within the flow. Like, did you write that yourself? Did you use Gemini? Like, how did you build it?
I wrote that myself. As you can see, it was a little sloppy. I think if I had used Gemini, I probably would have cleaned it up. But I built that myself. I kind of came up with the ideas for at least for the email one. I just did a simple categorization, and was really just thinking a lot about like what are the most common emails that I get, and then how would I structure that.
Yeah, I think you've got options of this, right? You can build yourself, or you can demo it today, but you can also like ask it to build for you as well, conversationally, which is dope. Can you share the agents? There is a share button, isn't there, on the flows? Could you share them with someone else in your team, for example?
I don't think
Yes.
you can share agents, can you? I think you can track activity, but I don't think you can share them necessarily.
Let's have if you don't mind pulling up the flow, Mike, because I know there's the Google share button, but I don't actually know what the functionality is.
Yeah, I think you can actually share now. It's like this is like brand new. So yeah, you could share this into your. Here, there we go. You could share this right into your organization. So if you go up into your this little favorite share button of ours, and then you could either share it looks like, or I can just make it private to me, or I can open it up to my organization, which is really cool.
That's incredibly useful, right? Like we're thinking about building, you could build something essentially for all your recruiters or for all your hiring managers and share it across them. So it's similar to the unlock we got with Gems, which is very cool. We got 5 minutes. Anyone want to ask a question, I guess, to anyone on anything specific we covered today, or any general questions on Google Workspace AI for Mike in particular, because he's our guest today, or for Jason and I as well. Let us know, because we have a little bit of time for some Q&A. Just checking I haven't missed any questions. Any questions from before worth double clicking on, Jason, that you saw?
I know there was one good question sort of around like kind of analytics on the back end of the gems. We answered it in chat, but just to call out, like analytics on the back end of gems, or even GPTs for that matter, kind of lack at the moment. When you get into the AI studio stuff, though, you can actually build in functionality to say something to the effect of like every question that gets asked, track in a Google sheet. And then, to then roll on into Mike Brown land, you can very easily watch that Google sheet in studios and have it, look for trends. Like if everybody's asking, where to park their broomstick when they come to interview sort of thing, like that could be something that's a little bit more put out there in talent branding and whatnot.
Very cool. I'll ask Mike a question to maybe round up on like, and anything exciting you at the minute, Mike? Anything you're working on, anything you're building, or any of these new tools, like as well as Workspace Studio, that you're excited about right now?
Yeah, actually, I've been building on the recommendation of Jason. Actually, we were chit chatting about a couple of things I've been building, and I started to play around with Google AI Studio actually just last night. And I already have a bit of a build already up. I've been working with a client of mine that has an interest in kind of automating a bit of their consulting workflow around culture assessment and culture development. And so they were trying to figure out, how could I, automate some of this. And I built, it's what started out as a prompt, then dropped that prompt into Google AI Studio, and now have a mock-up of a full-blown, website that has, full feature functionality and Gemini integration and granola-like features and all sorts of really cool stuff. So you can really kind of get in and build very quickly with these tools.
Awesome. Yeah, I've seen you building a number of things. Like I think you also built a candidate-facing like voice coach, recruiter coach as well, right? And
so I've been building this tool. It's called Signal AI. I'll probably have to change the name here at some point. But basically, it's a coach for candidates. I've been thinking a lot about people that have been laid off around Christmas time, holiday time, right before the end of the year, and wanted to do something for them that could potentially help them re-engage and get themselves back into the job market, and especially where in this market right now, AI is just all the AI content is saturating the world, and it kind of makes everybody's voice just mute. And so this is me trying to give people the encouragement to rebuild their voice and put themselves back out there. And so I've trained it with all sorts of tips and tricks and knowledge that I spieled into my microphone for like a couple hours over a couple of days. And use that as a big knowledge base, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, and like shout out to you for doing that, man. And like in kind of true AI arms race, theme. Like you weren't even really thinking about putting that out this year, right? Like that's something you were working on, and then like you saw the need and you accelerated the release. And it's like I think that's brave to kind of build it out there in public, but you also like did it for a really great reason, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so super commended. And I also want to acknowledge Joe. Like, if this whole PromptMates thing doesn't work out, you might have a great future as like a panel host, because you just threw to the special guest and asked them what they're working on. Just like you're like on Hot Ones right now, basically.
I should have started sweating harder though.
I like that.
I'm gonna promise everyone we won't start eating chicken wings on the stream anytime in the future. But no, it sounds like an awesome tool, Mike. If we can share it, we'd love to email it out to everyone afterwards. I think it'd be something that people would love to use. Like if you're looking for a role in particular, but even if not, I think a great use case for AI now is coaching, right? And if you're a recruiter, maybe it's coaching your hiring managers on interviewing with a similar kind of tool. So worth checking out.
For sure.
Mike's been on fire in the PromptMates community, dropping loads of stuff. Quite a few people have like built their own apps over the last few weeks, and then it's cool what happens in there, because then everyone goes and builds their own version of the same thing and shares it in, which is awesome. So I've dropped a link to the community if you're interested in learning more about that. There's an application form on our website. Awesome, chaps. Anything you want to end on, or shall we call it there?
Stuff, man.
Let's do it. Awesome. Thanks for joining, everyone. Really appreciate it. Look out for the email afterwards, and we will see you in 2026 for the next episode. Thanks for your support.